this sickening race baiting by the left, by the media, by the sports media, by sports figures, by Democrats. It's just nauseating. Absolutely nauseating. And so Katie Pavlich over there at Town Hall, she pulled together a montage of Democrats talking about monkeying around or things of that sort, using the word monkey. Which now, okay. Anyway, let's hit it. Cut 3, go.
It's not as if it's just Republicans who have monkeyed around with elections in the past. Sometimes
wait a minute, is that Obama? Wow. Monkeyed around with elections. Obama. He's not a self-hater, is he? Go ahead.
It's not as if it's just Republicans who have monkeyed around with elections in the past. Sometimes Democrats have too.
If you do it in constant dollars, so there's no monkeying around with numbers here.
Nobody here of any party has, until 2011, monkeyed around with that proposition.
Jay Carney.
Risk associated with monkeying around with the debt limit.
Josh Earnest.
All along, the Health and Human Services Department has been monkeying around with the website.
Senator Angus King.
Republican colleagues, even in their tax bill, cause premiums to go up by monkeying around with health.
Chuck Schumer.
They're not going to monkey around with government shutdowns.
That they would draw
Mike
the line
McCarran.
in Kosovo before he left and told Mr. Milosevic in no uncertain terms, don't monkey around with this one.
John Kerry.
It was all right to monkey around with Columbus Day,
Robert Byrd.
and even the birthday of the father of our country.
In the back of the solicitation, have the opportunity, have the ability to monkey around with
Bernie
interest
Sanders.
rates.
What may have been avoided was
Adam
a
Schiff.
further escalation of the interference in the form of trying to monkey around on Election Day or thereafter.
Wanted to say CNBC is no longer available to XYZ, DirecTV, to use an example. That's against the law, and if we wanted to monkey around.
Comcast, Brian Roberts, huge Democrat donor. Obama, Durbin, Carney, Ernest, King, Schumer, McCurry, Kerry, Byrd, Sanders, Schiff, and so forth. Such a phony issue. But they're not done. We have Simone Sanders, leftist. Chris Cuomo, leftist. Donna Edwards, leftist. Yamiche whatever, leftist. Rick Tyler, nutjob. John Berman, Jonathan Capehart, Chris Hayes, Don Lemon, montage from CNN and MSNBC. Whoa. You can focus on the word monkey, but now you need to focus on the word articulate, you see, because that clearly is a racist word. Cut 1, go.
DeSantis also referred to Mayor Gillum as articulate. And articulate.
All right, stop. I'll refer to him as inarticulate. Is that better, Mr. Producer? Inarticulate, because he's not that articulate. So he's inarticulate. Is that okay? Truth to power. Go ahead.
Thing that, frankly, some white people use to talk about black people because they do not expect them to be able to speak well.
By the way, calling an African-American male articulate is also something that sounds a little bit like code to people.
And he chose those words, the word articulate. I mean, I know, Michael, you and I, we're so tired of being described as articulate, okay?
So the fact that you would call him articulate and say that he was performing well is, of course, in its of itself racially charged.
Well, Mika, there's no question that the juxtapose articulate and monkeyed up, whatever that's supposed to mean, was maniacally stupid.
He also went out of his way to say that Gillum is an articulate spokesman, another word that is sometimes used.
Ask any of your black friends if they like to be called articulate in any context, and I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them will say they really can't stand it.
And in Florida, Republican Ron DeSantis accused of racism for calling his African-American opponent articulate.
Articulate, yeah, popular slur disguised as a compliment, articulate, as if it's surprising when a person of color.
Shut up, all of you idiots. White, black, brown, left-wing kooks. Articulate. So if there's a young man and he's articulate, and he happens to be African-American, you can't call him articulate? How many times have I heard people or had people on this show, many of whom are not African-Americans, Mr. Producer, and I call them articulate? Okay, he's inarticulate. Is that better? And by the way, I don't think he's particularly articulate. That's right. I don't. But of course, Joe Biden. We can remember the word articulate as he applied it to Obama. Joe Biden is obviously a well-known racist. Cut 2, go.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy.
There you go. There you go. There you go. At least 5 racist words in there, according to the left. Then there's Michael Steele. This guy is a whack job. Absolute whack job. The former chairman of the RNC over at MSNBC. He's a puppet. He's a puppet now over at MSNBC. He doesn't think for himself. Plays right into the line with Chuck Todd. Cut 4, go.
Why didn't DeSantis get the benefit of the doubt?
The assumption was that he didn't misspeak, that it was 100% a racial dog whistle. Is it because he's connected to Trump? He didn't get the benefit of the doubt from many people, including Fox News.
Because he's connected to Trump. It's because it's how white folks talk about black men who are successful.
You know, you're so unbelievable. You've come full circle, ideologically. It's how white folks talk about black men who are successful? Are you out of your mind? Go ahead.
I heard that he's articulate, he performs well, you know, he's checking off those boxes.
So when DeSantis was standing there, just show you how sick this comment is. After his successful primary bid, he's checking off the racist boxes. You are a disgrace, Michael Steele. You should be ashamed of yourself, but you won't. You won't be ashamed of yourself. You've turned a corner. You're over on the left. That's okay. Now you're out of the closet for everybody to see. Former great RNC chairman. Go ahead.
Why do you have to describe him that way? You know,
what makes him articulate?
Yeah, what makes him articulate? Chuck, you are an articulate.
I said he's not articulate. I felt he's inarticulate. The way he was talking, rambling on about socialism, rambling on about Medicare, rambling on about ICE and so forth. I don't find him articulate. I don't find many people on the left articulate. Nancy Pelosi, she can barely spit out 3 words in a row without her teeth chattering away. Schumer, inarticulate. There you have it. He's inarticulate. Go ahead.
I mean, and you know, you perform well. Mm-hmm. Now, that says one thing.
He said performed well at the debate. There were a number of people at the debate. He said he performed well. What do you think he meant, Steele? So you can't say somebody performed well at a debate? You can't say they're very articulate? You can't say don't monkey around and screw us up with socialism? Every single word evinces racism? These people are nuts. And there's Chuck Todd, stirring the pot, prodding it on. He knows where Michael Steele, he knows where he stands now. Go ahead.
Doesn't happen to a lot of white candidates.
Doesn't happen to a lot of white candidates. But here's the rub. Who uses the term monkey things up? I mean, to be honest, I know about a monkey wrench. I heard of don't monkey around, but I've never heard that term used that.
So you're not giving the benefit of the doubt.
No, I'm not, because that
outrageous. Outrageous, Michael Steele. You're accusing somebody to be a racist. I bet you don't even know the man. Monkey things up, monkey around, same damn thing. Okay, so he should have said monkey around. That would have satisfied you still? No. Then you would have gone to the word articulate or the word successful. People are finding racism where racism doesn't exist. They are doing it purposely. They are undermining the unity that people have in this country, a diverse nation which is mostly united. These are very, very diabolical forces as far as I'm concerned. That's right. You want to hear a real Steele? Listen to Shelby Steele. Forget about this Michael Steele. I'll be right back. Remember I told you last evening that this fella Andrew Gillum in Florida. Now this is important. Most of us don't live in Florida, at least not full time, but a lot of people do. But still, we're discussing the politics, the use of racism, and all the rest of it. I told you he would run away from this notion of democratic socialism. He would run away from it. That's why it's so important to use race to attack your opponent. Oh, he used the word articulate. Whoa, he used the word successful. Whoa, he said monkey up. What does he mean by that? Anyway, Andrew Gillum on MSLSD today, doing exactly what I told you he would do. Cut 8, go.
What do you make of this socialist label that's going to be ascribed to you a lot by your political opponents?
First of all, Chuck Todd, what is your job, Chuck Todd? If you're going to be a front man, may I use the term front man? If you're going to be a front man for Democratic candidates, for Democratic policies, then just do it and stop pretending to be a journalist and resign from your media position. Because obviously, you're a hack. Why conservatives go and meet the press with this jerk, I'll never know. And I told you, this is how the media do it. They make a statement and then put a question mark at the end or raise their voice, so as if to sound like they're asking a question. What do you make of this socialist label that's going to be ascribed to you a lot by your political opponents? Hit it at the top. Cut 8, go.
What do you make of this socialist label that's going to be ascribed to you a lot by your political opponents?
Yeah, well,
now keep in mind, Bernie Sanders is his mentor. Bernie Sanders campaigned for him. What do you mean by that? And there's no distance between him and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders being an articulate old red, by the way. Go ahead.
Didn't surprise you. It doesn't surprise me that the president is, again, creating fairy tales.
President's not creating fairy tales. Are you a fairy tale? I don't think so. Have you not made comments that are consistent with Bernie Sanders? Did you not win as a radical leftist within the Democrat primary? Of course you did. And now he's trying to swing into the center, but he can't because his positions are radical. Don't call me socialist. Don't call me articulate. Don't call me successful. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. I get to decide what you can say about me, and the media will back me up, especially Michael Steele. Go ahead.
On his Twitter feed, he's done that quite a bit.
To being a socialist.
No, I'm a Democrat. I ran as a Democrat. I am a Democrat.
Socialist, there are socialist parties. But socialism is an economic model. So you can run as a Democrat and be a socialist. And that's occurred throughout American history. He doesn't sound very articulate to me, Mr. Producer. Go ahead.
Frankly, the values that I hold, I think, are consistent with the values of the Democratic Party. In fact, I think they are the values shared by the majority of Floridians. What they don't know... So the
majority of Floridians want to get rid of ICE. The majority of Floridians want to get rid of Medicare and go to single payer. The majority of Floridians do not want a secure border. The majority of Floridians want to see their businesses taxed at 40%. And I can go on and on. Is that what the majority of Floridians want? Go.
What voters don't know. Too often in these elections is where we stand on those positions. I have been unapologetic in my beliefs. I have gone out, and whether I'm in red areas or blue areas or purple areas of this state, I've said the same thing. My grandmother used to put it this way: when you tell the truth all the time, you don't have to worry about covering up for lies. And so I've tried to be consistent every single place I've gone.
Well, there you have it. Now, Medicare for all. Let's listen to this. Chris Cuomo on CNN. You may not know he has a show. He's the brother of the other dummy, Andrew Cuomo. Let's listen to this. Cut 9, go.
I understand that there's studies that say over time, Medicare for all would reduce costs, have a healthier population, change copays. But the transition costs are
all right,
crippling.
stop there. No. Medicare for all can't possibly work. I've written about it, but why bore you folks? I don't know if Chris Cuomo can read. Go ahead.
One of your supporters, Bernie Sanders, his home state tried it, and they couldn't get it done because the tax increases that are necessary, crippling.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I think if for Florida to move in that direction, we would have to do it as a confederation of states.
Whoa, what? What did he say, Mr. Producer? A confederation of states? Well, let's pretend I'm a professor from an Ivy League school and I'm on the morning schmo show, or a columnist, or let's pretend I'm Michael Steele. Did he not say a confederation of states? Isn't our most recent experience with a confederation of states problematic? Was that a dog whistle or a bullhorn? What was that exactly? A confederation of states? Are you kidding me? Who talks like that anymore? A confederation of states. Go ahead.
not do it by ourselves solely here in the state of Florida, because it would collapse the system. We would only attract the sickest of patients, and it wouldn't work. But could you imagine if we could team up with the states of New York, California, Florida, maybe even Texas?
New York, California, that's the way to go economically. Maybe you don't know this, sir, but your state is filled with people who escaped from New York and California and some of these other dark blue states that are more and more socialist and less capitalist. Go ahead.
Illinois and other...
there's one. Illinois has gone... This is great. I hope the people of Florida are listening. But he's not a socialist. No. Not a socialist. We need a confederacy of states. Wow. Go ahead.
Thinking states and bargain on behalf of the citizens.
There you go. So we need a confederation of states to get together. New York, Illinois, California, states like that are economically bankrupt due to the profligate spending by the Democrats. Pensions out of control, immigration out of control, taxes out of control, regulation out of control, people escaping to states like Florida and Texas and so forth. And he said, no, you don't understand. We need a confederation of states. Now that phrase, confederation of states, now we all know what he means. No big deal. But if I'm of the mindset that using the word successful or articulate, or even monkey up as opposed, like a monkey wrench or something in the system, if those are racist dog whistles or even bullhorns, then what does the phrase confederation of states mean? What does that mean? A collection of states? Oh, no. If you're the head of the Democrat Party in Florida, and if Ron DeSantis had dared to say that, you would accuse him of racism. And it would be bouncing all over MSLSD and the Constipated News Network, CNN. Be bouncing all over them. Did you hear what DeSantis said? Confederation of States. We tried that once. That didn't work very well, did it? No. Well, what's he trying to do? It's a dog whistle to all the racists in the Republican Party. Really? I don't think so. Because you don't think. You don't know what it's like. All right. I'm just so sick of this. Sick of it. And I'm sick of people who claim to be conservatives and Republicans or even right of center who don't stand up to this, who don't speak out against this. Now, on Sunday, Labor Day weekend, as you know, we're going to replay on Life, Liberty, and Levin, or at least I asked them to at Fox, my interview with Shelby Steele. Forget about Michael Steele. Forget about all these frauds and phonies all over MSLSD and the Constipated News Network. Forget about all of them. They are mouthpieces. They are paid mouthpieces. White, black, red, green, brown, whatever. Forget about it. Listen to a truly thinking man, a scholar, who's delved into these issues of race, issues related to it. He doesn't make any excuses for slavery or segregation. Repugnant and contemptible. And neither do any of us, or should any of us. But he has the gall to say people need to think for themselves. People don't think as part of a group. We are all free men and free women. Act like it. Act like it. Instead, we get these mental midgets all over TV, stirring the pot, trying to divide the nation, trying to undermine the unity of a diverse nation, the most magnificent society on the face of the earth ever, with the most diverse population imaginable. And individuals in this country that insist on balkanizing us. You don't know what it's like to be this. You don't know what it's like to have this religion. You don't know what it's like to be... If you know what it's like to be a human being, then you do know what it's like. Everybody in one form or another has been discriminated against. Some people are smarter than others. Some people look better than others. It's just the way it is. Some people are taller than others. Some people speak better than others. Some people know how to bathe. Some people don't. And on and on and on. There's always some form of discrimination. Discriminating one person from another. But in terms of group discrimination, I don't know what else this society can do. As a matter of federal law, state law, the monitoring of various departments of government. I mean, this country's come so far, but you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. If you listen to the left, you listen to half the sportscasters in this country, half the athletes, or whatever, maybe all the athletes in this country. You'd think we haven't made any progress. The cops stink. There's no equality under the law. And so forth and so on. We've heard it before. And yet, if you're this racial group or that racial group, you're privileged or you're not privileged, and so forth and so on. Most people in this country work for what they get. Nobody hands them a damn thing. Whether it's that African-American gentleman who was driving the Uber car that my wife and I were in, whether it's some white truck driver, whether it's some Latino restaurateur, whatever it is, whoever it is, this magnificent, diverse country with still major elements of capitalism, people work for what they get. They're proud of having worked for what they get. And they don't need to be lectured to by individuals on TV who happen to have a hosting role or a guest role telling them how much the country sucks all the time and just rely on more government. I'll be right back. It was never my plan, quite frankly, throughout the day to discuss this for an hour. Never. But frankly, folks, somebody has to give voice to rationality, to reason here. When it comes to the slinging and the sliming of people to try and shut them down, to try and threaten their reputations, to try and prevent them from speaking, prevent them from running for office. Well-to-do media personalities, well-to-do professors, well-to-do business people, well-to-do politicians, constantly trying to tear this country apart. The values that bring us together, faith, family, liberty, private property rights, the values that bring us together are under attack. And so when you seek to defend those values from those who are attacking it, the hardcore progressive left, you are inevitably accused of racism. Inevitably. Can you think of a single prominent conservative who hasn't been? Barry Goldwater? Milton Friedman? Ronald Reagan? John McCain, not particularly conservative. He was accused of it. You're not allowed to win elections. Of course, the current president, you're not allowed to win elections. You're not allowed to make the case for liberty. You're not allowed to make the case for capitalism, securing the border, lawful immigration, without having this mud. It's even worse, this sludge thrown at you, this toxic sludge to shut you down and shut you up. This phrase, white privilege, honestly, I hadn't heard of this phrase till the last 2 or 3 years. And again, Shelby still talks about this on Sunday's show. White privilege. You've got an enormous number of people in this country who are Caucasian, whatever that means, who have to break their ass every day to put food on the table. Every day. They don't complain. They don't squawk. Many of you, that's what you do. We have people who call this program all the time, driving 18-wheelers from one end of the country to the other. They're away from home 10 months out of the year to bring us goods and material to retail stores and so forth. when you hear phrases like white privilege or this phrase racism thrown around, things like that, this is intended to disrupt the civil society. This is intended to put an end to any serious discussion about any serious issue. Don't tell me I don't understand this or I don't understand that or you've never been this or you've never been that. The vast majority of us have never been the vast majority of anything. And when you start putting people in these boxes and then insist that they be in these boxes and insist on groupthink and group identification, you don't understand Americanism. You don't understand the purpose of this nation. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We are an imperfect people, but we are a great people. And if you don't believe we're a great people, then you don't believe in America at all, quite frankly. I hope you'll stick with us. Washington, D.C., I believe they are, at this point, watching a preseason football game. That's very valuable. I'll be right back. All right, let's take a few calls. Maureen, Westerville, Ohio, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you tonight?
Very well, thank you.
I have one comment and then a question. I was raised very poor, so being articulate is something that I've strived for in my life. And if you were to call me articulate, that would be a huge compliment to me. And I don't get where these people are coming from. Maybe, perhaps they don't know the definition.
What if DeSantis had called him inarticulate?
Oh.
Because I happen to think he's less articulate and more inarticulate. So what if DeSantis had said that? Is that racist? You see, you can't win. Well, you don't talk about white people that way. Sure I do. We do. All the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. My question to you is, I need some words of wisdom. My boyfriend is a Democrat, and are there people that are Democrats in your life that you love? And how... usually my argument ends with, "Are you kidding me?" So I try.
All right, let me ask you a few questions. How long has this guy been your boyfriend?
We met right before the election, so almost 2 years.
Are you in love with this gentleman?
Yes, except for the political part.
Do you think he's in love with you?
I don't know, because I asked him one time, when we met, did you think I was like a stinky Walmart shopper? And he didn't even answer. So
really?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. I continue with a few questions you asked me. Do you think this is somebody you could spend the rest of your life with when you can't really share what's in your heart and soul about your belief system?
That's kind of the conundrum I'm facing. If I have to live the rest of my life and I can't listen to you or I can't listen to Fox News without him thinking I'm crazy, then I don't see much of a future. Is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong. It's what you feel. But just so you know, I could not marry somebody who was diametrically opposed to my principles, because you need to be able to share that belief system. You know, there's a bonding that's involved in that when you watch a particular show or listen to a particular person or read a particular book or make a particular argument. You know, when you're at Thanksgiving, you don't want him on the other side of the table joining in with the libs in your family.
Oh, my word. I'm the only one. I try to stand strong, but when it's with his family, I try to stand strong because I think...
Well, what may I ask? Well, you don't need to identify, of course. What does he do?
He's an accountant.
It's an accountant?
Yes.
Have you asked him to look at the federal government's finances, even from afar?
Oh, yeah. And I write down most of the points that you make because you are much more articulate at that than I am.
Excuse me, did you just call me articulate?
I did. I'm so sorry.
That's shameful. Well, look, I'll send you a book. Will he read a book if I send it to you?
I believe he will. I've challenged him with books, and he's read them. he doubles down on stupid, and I don't know how much further I can go.
Well, that's the thing. If he's doubling down on stupid, you better cut your losses. Matter of fact, I'm going to keep my book. I'm not even going to give him a book.
Okay. Well, thank you for your advice.
I would keep an open mind about keeping an open mind, if you know what I mean. Try to use your head and not your heart, because you may be very, very frustrated with this guy.
Yeah, I think my blood pressure goes up.
And plus, if he's not that bright, what's the point?
Very true. Very true.
You go out there. There's somebody for you out there.
All right. We'll send them my way, Mark.
Yeah, well, I'll do my best. You take care. What a nice lady, Maureen. Gil, Tucson, Arizona, the great KNST. Go.
Mark, good to be speaking to you, sir. You were talking about social media being attacked because conservatives on it. I got my notice today from Facebook because I had to register, because I support our President Trump, because I have a constitutional conservative voice on my Facebook page, and now I have a code I have to put in because they say it's political, national issues, so I had to register with the thought police at Facebook, Mark.
Well, there's a solution, you know, and that's to get off Facebook and try one of the others.
You are absolutely right, Mark, and I am going to find another place to express my constitutional voice and, speak with people of like mind, because this is an Orwellian world we are heading into, and whether you're articulate or not, Facebook should not be monkeying around with.
All right, sir. Thank you. Got it. Greg, our buddy Greg, Ocala, Florida, the great WSKY. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
Great.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet.
I'm going to throw a little curveball into the story tonight, storyline. I just wanted to share with you and the listeners something that I went through, experienced 13 years ago in Crawford, Texas, when they were protesting at President Bush's ranch.
Mm-hmm.
First day I was in town. It's a small town, but anyway, I rode out to what they called Camp Casey 2. They had a big tent, 300 foot long at least. And whatever. And George Soros paid for it, and they didn't make any bones about it. But I got out there, and I was told, I went and knocked on the door of a CNN truck. They had to park at the end of the building, tent. And a guy came out, and I introduced myself and handed him a picture of my son, Justin, and
everybody, Greg is a gold star father. Everybody doesn't know. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, Greg.
Okay. No, you're fine. And so I flipped it over, and I gave the legend of the flag was on the backside, and a news article of the Orlando Sentinel. And the guy put it in there. I was quite surprised, but anyway, it said I stopped my truck when he called me and was talking to him, and I said, he was trying to get me to say something, whatever, bad. And I said, no, George Bush did not kill my son. Those bastards in Iraq did. And he put that in the newspaper. And I was surprised. And anyway, make a long story short, went through everything with him, and I said, how would you like to do another side of the story out here? About the memorial project that I had. And he listened to me, and he said,
what happened?
He says to me, you have a great story to tell. But unfortunately, Mr. Garvey, you're not the story out here. Cindy Sheehan is.
I see. Cindy Sheehan of Code Pink.
Yep. And so I gave him a smile, shook his hand. I said, thank you very much. He goes, what are you thanking me for? I said, because you're the most honest SOB in the news business I've ever met. That was a guy from CNN. But they wanted nothing, and it was anything that, if you remember those days, anything you saw from that event, and I was there for 2 weeks, was totally media driven. There was nothing real. It was made up, and they drove it. I mean, it was just. I haven't watched television since. I haven't bought a newspaper since, literally. And
Greg, you're a good man, brother. Thank you for your call. God bless you. You know, it's tough watching Meghan McCain watch her father's casket removed from Air Force 2 and being placed in a hearse. It is. It's obvious she adored her father. adored her father. And obviously the family's very upset, but you can see on her face she's crying that she is enormously upset. So, our hearts absolutely go out to the family. Absolutely go out. I understand it completely. So, and that gentleman you just heard, Greg Garvey, he lost his son in Iraq. And he's terrific. He's a fighter. He's a fighter. You heard what he said about that reporter. The most honest SOB in the media. And that's about right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot more to cover. It's been a real soul-searching show, hasn't it, in many ways? I'll be right back. Let us go to Jim, Los Angeles, California. The great 870 The Answer. Go.
Hello, Mark. Hey, first I want to say I read your book, Ameritopia, and I loved it, and it gives me all the information I need to debate all these liberals in Los Angeles around here.
Thank you,
what
sir.
I want to say is this.
By the way, that's a full-time job.
Oh, my God. You know what? I have friends overseas that chat with me, and it's amazing. I'm the only one defending Trump, and they are all repeating exactly what we hear on the left-wing media, and that tells me that's what they're hearing overseas.
Yes, they're good parrots.
My God. Anyway, what I wanted to say is I'm hoping that the Republicans regain or remain in control of both houses so that Trump goes on deep offensive, exposes everybody by name, and actually goes after them. I hope he does that and gets... It
is very, very important that we hold both houses. And let me tell you, if we lose both houses, we have a huge problem. If we lose the House, we have a huge problem because we've talked about this. They will spend the entire time unleashing these vicious investigations about Trump's taxes, about his businesses. They'll be pulling family members. You'll see an old Soviet-style Politburo operation or a modern-style Red Chinese government operation, and we don't need that.
That's how they operate, and I don't understand why decent Democrats don't see that and say something. I try to explain that to
Well, there are Democrats in the country listening to this program who agree with us, but the leadership is completely whacked out.
Let me ask you something, Mark. These guys, the progressives, and what they do, they act in such an organized manner. Who is that force behind this big machine?
Well, there's a number of forces. You've got multiple billionaires. You have their political party. You have certain of their political leaders. I don't think there's one Svengali. I think there's many.
United in the ways that they do things. It's like they're organized.
Well, they are.
One guy comes up with a lie.
They're good at organizing. They're good at protesting. They're very good at that. In fact, I give them 5 stars for that. All right, Jim, thanks for your call, my friend. I want to go back to Debbie. Debbie, I'm sorry I forgot. Go ahead.
Hey, I've been waiting and enjoying your show. Thank you. You know what I realized? Maybe some of your listeners don't realize that the Yad Vashem is the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you had the...
oh, yes.
Yes, it's... Wow.
I went there 2 Mays ago. Yeah, it is really... it is very upsetting, and for people who don't really know what took place during the Holocaust, when you leave that building, you won't miss it. That is, you won't miss what took place.
Yes. I highly recommend that you take the time, your listeners, to put the earmuffs on and go station by station and find out what really happened. So that was why I wanted to call. It has been on my mind and my heart ever since last December when I went through that, the very beginning. You wonder how Hitler got those wonderful German people to hate the Jewish race. And when I got to that station with my headphones on, I looked around and listened. He put a radio in every household to deliver his propaganda.
Yeah, I had one station pretty much. So, all right, my friend, thank you for reminding us. Yeah, it's a very it's very compelling to go there and see firsthand, pretty much. I mean, obviously not firsthand back in history, but you can see the actual photos, the actual films. You can see the artifacts. It's very, very upsetting, but it's very important to see it. And I remember the documentaries and reading that when our troops entered into a number of these camps, and they were going to bulldoze them, and Eisenhower gave the order, no, you're not going to bulldoze them. The world needs to see this. The world needs to see this, and the world needs to remember it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pretty deep show, and I want to thank you for your attendance. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. I will not be here tomorrow. I will not be back until, when is it, Rich? Wednesday? Wednesday. Larry O'Connor tomorrow, Dan Bongino on Tuesday, and I'll be back. Have a wonderful holiday. God bless you. Be safe, and keep your chin up. See you later.